What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the data points, what moved it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi went down 9.68%, 27.13 the low, 30.86 the high, and 87 million shares being traded. So today was a brutal day, not just for SoFi, but kind of the broader market. A lot of things was really influencing the market. So starting off, we did have somewhat negative data. So Challenger job cuts came in at 153, forecast of 73. So the market generally wants negative labor data to justify a rate cut. Doesn't want this negative. And so I think in general, this kind of sparked a lot of fear, even though generally we kind of knew that this was going to be bad. Last report was at 54,000. And so even going into this one with the forecast of 73, we kind of knew it was bad. But we've seen a lot of big companies outright saying that they're going to be laying off, Amazon and many others. So again, I think we kind of knew that this was bad, but not this bad. So this kind of sparked a little bit of fear. At the same time, we knew going into today that Robinhood's earnings was going to really affect the broader market, especially SoFi. And even though Robinhood had fairly good earnings, no different than Palantir, Wall Street kind of treated them the same. They looked at the valuations, and over and above that, there was a lot of other speculative names that have a fairly high multiple that missed on their earnings and similarly went down. So it was just a very bad scenario all around. At the same time, we did have the hearing yesterday associated to Trump's tariffs. And so we did have some articles coming out saying that if things don't work in Trump's favor, there's going to be an estimated $1 trillion that needs to be paid back. And so I think we'll be finding out most likely in the next couple of weeks, I would assume. But that is, of course, another level of fear that's kind of looming over the market. And big money just had enough of it. So I covered quite a few different stocks. Wasn't really so relevant in SoFi's case because it's been getting a lot of good volume. But other stocks I cover, just minimal and like pennies on the dollar for the overall volume on what it used to be. And so right now, this data came out today, so it's over the last week. There was $116.36 billion that left both crypto and equity to go back into money markets. So now we're at an all-time high record of $7.53 trillion. So despite everything, big money just says, nope, I'm just going to collect the whatever percent in money markets. I'm not going to deal with the hassle and up and down of the market. So sometimes I guess you can't blame them because the market's crazy volatile, but nonetheless, at the end of the day, this does kind of justify why we've been seeing lower volume. Obviously not in SoFi's case, but nonetheless, that's another element that is really affecting and did affect SoFi. Today, there was no news from SoFi, no SEC filings, no speculative topics even brought up on social media. On SoFi's technicals, though, it did break down. So ultimately, it closed below that 50-day moving average. And this is the first time it actually closed below the 50-day moving average since going old school April 22nd, 2025. So the first time it closed below that. So that is definitely not a good sign. Of course, today we did similar to the last couple of trading days, have a lot of volume associated to algorithmic trading. So today's kind of sell-off could be interpreted as unjustified in some cases, but still on a technical standpoint, it's not necessarily the best. Every time it's bounced off of that, luckily enough, but this time was a little bit different. So tomorrow's going to be a very important day to watch for based on the technicals. There was no real articles kind of coming out associated to SoFi. Stochastic RSI is considered a little bit on the low end. If it does close below that 50-day moving average tomorrow, then most likely it'll be considered oversold. So that might be a pretty good thing that could work in its favor going into the next couple of trading days. But ultimately, that 50-day moving average is sitting at 27.59. No new analyst ratings or anything. So the last one did come out November the 3rd. We might get some new ratings, possibly maybe tomorrow, if not early next week. There's about one or two few stragglers. That still could give ratings, but again, I think SoFi's technicals was another element that caused it to go down. Shorts, they did increase 727,000 shares, 8.41% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 99.5 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow minimum is negative 0.37, so as per usual, brokers are out there paying people to short SoFi, although this cost to borrow minimum is a little bit lower than the norm. Every time I've done this, it's always about 0.2, negative 0.2 or negative 0.22, one or the other. This one's a little bit lower, of course, so maybe they're trying to really drum up some business. When it comes to options, 98 million in calls, 18 in puts, and then 51% of all the options being done today were bearish in nature. And from a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that 29.50 to 30. So still, despite everything, you're seeing a lot of optimism still on the table. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub kind of 27. So definitely there's a lot more upside, but the frequency and magnitude definitely does feel like there's more downside, and it looks like some of it is even rolling over into next week for it to be sub kind of 24. So that would be kind of crazy. Tomorrow, with that being Friday, this is the open interest. So given where SoFi is, unless it kind of touches close to that 30, you're not going to see any crazy open interest or any gamma squeezes or anything. So very small chump change in reality. These are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market. So big one for today was 53.6, 9.2, 3.2, 2.8, and so forth. So big money still is paying attention to SoFi, always a good sign. On the dark pool, big one for today was 25.2, 9.02, and then 3.3. So you had a lot of transactions here as well as on the secondary market that kind of caused a lot of this early on volatility, and most likely triggered a lot of stop losses, and that kind of just escalated the bleed for the most part. So this is again more of a fun warning. I know I don't really give financial advice, but for those of you that use margin, just days like this, and especially what we've encountered over the last couple of trading days, they could be kind of brutal killers for anyone on margin, especially if you're tight. So just be cautious, do your own due diligence and all the other fun jazz. But the whole name of the game is to make money, so kind of mitigate some risk, of course, but again, you do whatever floats your boat. When it comes to it closing at 27.16, it is smack dab in the middle between this pivot and this S1. So 26.08 and then 29.03 is going to be strong support and resistance points. That's the 1-day chart. This is the 4-hour, so a little bit more relevant for kind of day trading. So in this case, 27.73 and then 26.17 is going to be strong support and resistance points. So very wide gaps. So anticipate a continued certain level of volatility. So let me know your viewpoint on SoFi. We do have a big data point tomorrow that maybe might save the broader market at least, and that's Michigan consumer sentiment. Forecast for that is 53, so big inflationary data point. And we did even have Bessent earlier today mentioning that if inflation is going down, then we are going to be getting cuts. So as that might be some expectation, potentially causing a nice opportunity to buy, but still I think there's a hell of a lot of fear in the broader market. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Did you buy the dip? Did you sell? What did you do with SoFi? One final thing, I did launch a new it's very equivalent to Patreon, but it is called Stacked. I just made it, and it is $1. So I did a promotional kind of thing. So it's only $1 a month, and that is only up until midnight tonight. After that, then I'm going to be closing it up and putting it back to the regular price. So for those of you that have been curious and wanting to join the Patreon, but possibly didn't want to for whatever reason, this is now a good incentive. So $1. So kind of check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.